Let's freaking go. I'm looking at you right now. I'm so fired up. I'm telling you, this has been one of the biggest weeks in the history of Power Hour LSU. We had Joe freaking Burrow obviously be a part of what we do here. His signature will forever be a part of what we do here. I cannot thank each and every one of you enough for all of that. But today we are talking about the SEC schedule. We're also going to talk about some baseball regional action. And on Thursday night, you don't want to miss it. Blake Ruffino will be on the show for the entirety of the show. So Thursday night, he's going to be on here. He knows way more about LSU baseball than me. And we're going to discuss that and this crazy story that Kentucky doesn't even have hotels for the visiting baseball teams. The visiting baseball teams have got to stay in dorm rooms. Dorm rooms, really? So I'm going to be honest with you. This comes from the bottom of my heart. PHL Nation, I'm going to need you to like, subscribe, ring the bell, spread the good news that this is the best LSU football channel on the freaking planet. And yes, we dabble into different sports like baseball. And how about Haley Van Lith killing it in the USA basketball 3-on-3 stuff? But I want to start off with weakness, right? You hear that term all the time. You're weak. And we talk about this all the time, that the SEC is by far the strongest schedule. And Brian Kelly has repeatedly beat this over each and every national media member's head. Why he left Notre Dame? It's because he wanted to win national championships and he wanted to compete against the absolute best of the best teams that are out there. So I want you to listen to this very closely, okay? This was Scott Woodward earlier today on Paul Feinbaum, and you have the poll question up right now. Do you prefer an 8-game conference schedule or do you prefer a 9-game conference schedule? Here you go. I want you to listen once again very closely.
Paul, I can't speak for the people that are just dead set for the 8. I don't think it's as many as people think, but they have points that, hey, it's tough to get bowl eligible. It's tough to compete in our league, which is a meat grinder, and I get all that. I understand it, but at the end of the day, I think my coach, Coach Kelly, our coach at LSU, really said it best. Hey, look, I came in here to play the best and be with the best, and I want to give the fans the best. And I think it makes even more sense now that we're expanding the playoffs to have tough, good games, and you can lose 2 games and still make the playoffs.
The bottom line is this, okay? You guys know I do not agree with everything Brian Kelly has ever said. And I am not the channel that is just going to pom-pom wave LSU, even though it's my absolute favorite thing on the planet. But I have never in my life agreed with an athletic director and head coach at LSU as much as I agree with the 2 men that lead the very thing that I love more than anything else on this planet. Scott Woodward and Brian Kelly is absolutely correct. Okay, I am tired. I'm so sick and tired of it. And some of my friends are even saying this aloud right now that, well, we have made the playoff every year with an 8-game conference schedule. Why should we change anything? Because we're the SEC. We're the best. Nobody wants to see Eastern, Michigan, Norfolk Mud Dogs in week 13 of the season. Stop this nonsense. We need more conference games, okay? And I understand that there's going to be SEC teams that are going to moan and complain and worry about getting to 6 wins. It's going to be harder to get to 6-6. Well, dang it. You're a part of the best conference in America. You know what you signed up for. This isn't a charity league. This isn't a league to make sure everybody gets their wins. That's not the SEC. If it truly means more, play more games in the conference where it means more. This is so freaking straightforward. It is so straightforward. If you are in the best conference in America, why do we allow other conferences to play more conference games than us? Under the same NCAA, under the same college football playoff format. What are we doing here? So out of any school, any school, the one school that is leading the charge for a 9-game conference schedule in a conference that has had the worst schedule format in all of major sports that we care about. In a 16-team league, you can't just play 8 conference games. When you play 9, let me repeat this. When you play 9 conference games and it becomes a 3-6 schedule format where you play 3 permanents and a rotational of 6 other teams, guess what happens? You play every team once every 2 years. Let me repeat, you play every team once every 2 years. In the last 8-game schedule format, you played every team in your conference once every 6 years. It's not even a conference then, okay? So the bottom line is, look, I understand anybody that could be coming across this for the first time. Oh, he's just pom-pom waving and just agreeing with Scott, and he's agreeing with Brian because those are the bosses of his favorite thing on the planet. I totally get it, and I get those messages when I agree with Brian Kelly. I totally get it. But they're right. They're right. And you notice one thing. You notice one thing that's happened so far in Destin. You want to know what's happened? Everybody that's in favor of an 8-game conference schedule has not said anything. You want to know why? Because they know they're wrong. And they don't want to be perceived as weak. They don't want to be perceived as a team that dodges competition. That is un-American. That is not what being a part of the best league is all about. It's the SEC. Stop it. 9-game conference schedule now. Do it now. Greg Sankey knows in his heart of hearts that's what you got to do. Okay? 9 games now. Okay. So, if you're in disagreement, and I promise I'm going to get to your comments. I promise you. If you are in disagreement right now, okay, let's take the blinders off if we're LSU fans. And let's take a look at this neutrally. All right. Let's just say you're a fan of this channel and you're just a fan of college football. Okay. And you just like the SEC as a whole. Because we got fans from other teams that watch this. You guys see the Bama trolls. But honestly, we have a lot of good, smart people. Not only from the SEC, we got a lot of Florida State fans that watch this channel. And you guys might be going through some change pretty soon. Let's just say you're a Florida State fan watching this, or you're a fan of Oregon or some school that's not in the SEC. College football is not just for us LSU fans. It's not just for Bama fans. It's not just for anybody. It's for everybody. From a neutral vantage point, you are going to get better matchups, okay? You are going to get more great games. I am tired the week before rivalry week in college football, all these trash games that are played every year. November is the month of college football. Baseball's over. The NFL's not quite hit their playoffs. November is all about college football. It's all about it. It's our prime month in the SEC. And we're sitting there playing UAB. Okay? The likelihood that those matchups are shoved the week before rivalry week goes down in a 9-game conference schedule. A 9-game conference schedule makes it better for the neutral viewer. Okay? It does. Now, I understand. There are many schools in the SEC that are going to be hurt if this goes to 9 games. There's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot. Okay? Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, South Carolina. You guys know the schools that aren't in the upper echelon. It hurts them. It makes it harder for them to get to 6 wins. They don't have a fertile recruiting ground like we do in Louisiana. They don't recruit top 15 national classes like we do every year, top 10 for us. So I know it's coming off as elitist as well because my team actually does recruit the prerequisite talent to really win a lot of games in the schedule. But guess what, folks? Life is unfair. College football has never been a fair sport. And you're getting more money being in the SEC. So if you don't want to play a tougher schedule, get the heck out. Get the heck out. The Big 12 is begging for you. Begging, pleading. So I don't really care. It's part of it. It's part of it. I don't think the people that are complaining about the difference between the 8 and 9 game schedule, I think they're overstating just how devastating all of it would be for the overall bowl structure. Now, there are quite a few of you that would say this. If you're a general SEC fan, a lot of you would say this. Well, look, if we add an extra conference game to the schedule, it decreases the chances that an SEC team could get in, right? Because while it is true that college football is all about the playoff now, the one myth that people share about college football is it's about who you beat. It's not. College football is about, do you avoid losses? Avoiding losses is always a more important thing to do in college football than winning big games. All right? Because think about it. Like, really perceive in the back of your mind right now when you hear college football playoff arguments. It's never, oh, they beat this team. It's always, well, they only have one loss. They don't have any losses. It always starts with that. It doesn't end with that, right? Whereas in other sports, it's the other way around. Who you beat matters, okay? And who you beat does matter to a certain extent in college football, but it's more important to avoid losses. So, in theory, if you do play more conference games, it does open yourself up for more losses. I totally get it. But it's the SEC, baby. It goes back to it. You're part of the best conference in America. You have more wiggle room. Like Scott Woodward just eloquently said, with a 12-team expanded playoff, that's an excuse. If you can't survive a 9-game conference schedule, what the hell do you think you can do to stop a Joe Burrow? You don't deserve to be in the playoff then if you can't survive that schedule. Okay? Now, I digress. We're going to get to some of your comments. I'm going to take a look at the poll question. I want you in the chat right now before we start flashing up questions here. Type 8, the number 8 for 8 if you prefer 8-game conference schedule. Type 9 for 9, okay? Joshua says we need 10 games. Disagreement there. Even though I would like it, we want to keep some non-conference games. And that's going to be the big thing, right? If you have all these conference games, what about the non-conference schedule? What about the non-conference? Okay? So it looks as if I convinced a lot of you. I think most of you would want 9 as well. By the way, 9 is Louisiana's number, right? There will never be a New Orleans Saint or LSU Tiger to ever wear the number 9 uniform again. Baked Chicken Jones. What about New Mexico? I'll say this about our conference schedule, our non-conference schedule last year. Outside of Florida State, we had such ease beating everybody in our non-conference, which was very impressive. And honestly, it's been Brian Kelly's MO at Notre Dame. He beats everybody he's supposed to beat, right? There's not a whole lot of just bad losses at Notre Dame. Now, they had one after he left, as many of you know, and we got one of those players from Marshall to join our team. Don't play Southern again. Disagreement. I do think there needs to be still some wins on the schedule. Saban said he prefers all games be Power 5 games. I don't like that. I like the fact that a lot of these non-Power 5 teams get the opportunity to play in these cathedrals at least once. It's definitely a cool opportunity for them, especially if we play a Louisiana school, because we know a lot of those kids dream to play in Tiger Stadium. So, yeah, I think my perfect world would be 9 conference games with 1 big P5 non-conference and 2 random wins. Okay. I think that would be perfect. Obviously, that's not attainable for every school because scheduling is a very fickle thing. But yeah. Now, we move along to current things. If you guys want to continue talking about the 8-game or the 9-game conference schedule, type Y for yes, type N for no. I should have asked this question at the beginning because, when I unleash an argument like that, it does seem like a lot of you are just going to follow suit if you wanted 8. I'm just a 9 guy. I'm a 9 guy. Okay. Everybody, welcome GT Mane. What is a speed racer? Is that a speed racer? Georgia has the weakest schedule, but will get a pass just because they are champs and not who they beat. The mindset of college world needs to change. I'm going to defend Georgia a little bit. I believe they had Oklahoma scheduled, but they chickened out, so that wasn't on them. It's also not their fault that Florida just sucks right now. They're nowhere close to being relevant, and I'm fine with that, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, I mean, one loss Georgia is still getting in. They are, if they indeed end up winning the SEC championship and they only hiccup once. All right, so let's go to Grant here. Bring back the LSU Tulane rivalry to the schedule. Okay. Yeah, let's do it. Why not? Why the frick not? I don't know if annually that would be something that LSU would love because it's a non-Power 5 annual matchup. So if you look at the other annual matchups that are played in the SEC in the non-conference, there's only 3. Okay. Those 3 schools are Florida. Every year they play Florida State. Okay. South Carolina every year plays Clemson, and Kentucky every year plays Louisville. So that makes sense because they're both in the same state and they have a long tenured history and they play on rivalry week. Okay. Tulane's not a Power 5 school like those other 3 teams. So that does kind of knock off the luster just a little bit. And it does also grant lower the amount of diversity you can have as far as your non-conference slate is concerned, because LSU's a team, and this is one thing you could say about LSU above all other SEC teams. They are not afraid of anybody, right? You can say this, whoever you are, doesn't matter where you're from, okay? You are a fan of the least scared team in America, okay? You've not heard LSU pull a Nick Saban complaining about program imbalance. Brian Kelly today, there was no video I could find of his meeting with reporters, but Brian Kelly emphatically said that he would love to play Alabama every year. That's not smart, right? In the past, I've said, hey, if we can get out of playing Alabama every year, it's probably good for us. But the more I thought about it, the more I feel better about it now. You got to have that fearless mindset, baby. So, I've never been prouder of Coach Kelly and Scott Woodward than I am today. I really do mean it. Because for those that know me, and Grant knows me pretty well from, when I was doing radio as a student in the basement of Hodges Hall next to Tiger Stadium, I would yell about this all the time. Schedule format is everything in sports. It's everything. I can make a strong argument that schedule format is as big as the teams themselves, as big as the players themselves. You've heard me complain about schedule format in other sports, right? I feel like the most overrated thing we have in sports are game 7s because no series should be more than 5 games. 7 games is just way too mother-freaking long. Schedule format, postseason format, all of it. It matters so much to me. It really does. And I have just been banging the table for so long that the cross-division rival rule really hurt the conference. It really did. Now, there is one major disaster scenario that I do want to bring up. I don't think an 8-game conference schedule would be the absolute worst thing. Okay. I don't think it would. I still think an 8-game conference schedule, especially if Greg Sankey and the NCAA powers push these programs to play tougher non-conference teams, that would obviously be a huge payoff, right? If we could play a home and home with Washington again or Oregon, that would be pretty cool. But or Ohio State, that would be pretty awesome as well. So let me bring this up. Why I think an 8-game conference schedule could be a disaster, because the SEC might want to double dip with the 8-game conference schedule. They might want to play an 8-game conference schedule, but at the same time, keep the secondary rivalries. So one thing I would not be shocked, okay, this is no inside information. This is just, I've gone to SEC Media Days every year, and I speak to, I don't go anymore. I'll tell that story another day, but Greg Sankey, I've interviewed him 2 or 3 times. I've spoken to some of these suits in the SEC. They love money, right? Whether they admit it or not, they love money. Now, Greg Sankey said, we are not only going to be driven by money here. And that gives me hope that they move to a 9-game conference schedule, because part of the administrators at these universities, what they're moaning about is, if we go to 9 games, are we going to get any extra money? And my thing is, it shouldn't matter. But, what I think could happen is the SEC do a 5-3 format where you have a rotating door of 5 opponents, but you play 3 teams every year. Okay. And that way you maintain only 8 conference games and you keep these secondary rivalries. One thing that the SEC has made clear is they do not want to lose the secondary rivalries. They don't want to lose Alabama, Tennessee. They don't want to lose Auburn, Georgia. They don't want to lose those types of games. And I get it. There's a lot of history with those games. But a 5-3 would not be good, or 6-2, if you will. I believe it would need to be 7-1. But the 6-3 would be the best. 6-3 would be the best. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if Tulane would join the SEC. That would be interesting, and that would hurt us. That would hurt us as LSU fans. Not by much, but it would put them in a Power 5 position to recruit a lot of these really good players in New Orleans. So there you go. It doesn't. Now, if ESPN were to call the SEC right now and say, look, we'll give each school an extra $5 million a year if you add an extra conference game, they would do it. They would do it. Okay. Let's see here. I want 9 because Saban doesn't. What's really fascinating about that, and Chance, I really appreciate you being a part of the PHL Patreon. What's really interesting about Nick Saban saying he wants 8, or, at least bringing up the conversation of 8, is Saban was the first one to want 9. Okay. Back in 2012. All right. Nick Saban, before Texas A&M and Missouri jumped in, he said, hey, we need to jump to 9. And then a few years later, at these same SEC meetings, there was a vote amongst the 14 coaches in the SEC. How many of you want a 9-game conference schedule? Okay. Nick Saban was the only one to vote yes. So I do give Saban a little bit of slack here for, moaning about the 9-game schedule because he has long pushed it. All right. It is a little interesting though that he's whining about this, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think I think a 9 is great. I just think a 9 would be absolutely wonderful content. I really do believe it. Nick wouldn't be an issue if Miami would have cleared Drew Brees. LSU gets at least 3 more natties. Huh? But yeah, I mean, there's so many what ifs. That's to me the biggest what if in football history is the Drew Brees Miami thing. It changes so much on both levels of football, in a major way, absolutely major way. It affects Brady. It affects obviously the Saints. We never do what we do. More than likely, it affects obviously LSU and Alabama. It's the biggest what if, right, in football history. But yeah, it's always an interesting thing to reminisce. Okay. There you go. Now, let's do this. By the way, once again, if we get to a hundo in super chats and in Patreon signups, we will give out another autographed LSU card tonight. Okay, so be on the lookout for that. Also, we got some pretty good news today about a potential PHL guest. I don't think anybody's ever going to be bigger than Joe, obviously, but yeah, we're going to work on it. Let's go to Lawrence. 9-game conference and the non-conference Power 5 all-team schedule. That actually gives me losses unless others have an argument to get in over an SEC team. Best ball is already played in the SEC. No, it's not. Okay. The best ball, yes, the best teams are in the SEC, but the best format is not in the SEC. An 8-game conference schedule is not the best format. It's a 9-game conference schedule. And keeping the non-conference. If you're the biggest and baddest, prove it. Prove it. Okay? Prove it. And I understand. You want to avoid losses. That's the name of the game. But as Scott Woodward said, we are tripling the amount of teams that are getting into the playoff. Okay? We are tripling. We're not doubling. We are tripling the amount of teams that get into the playoffs. Okay? Each of the Power 5 champions, the highest ranked Group of 5 champion. So, if you are not one of those teams, guess what? You still have 6 more slots to get in. And by the way, you are LSU. There is a brand attached to your team. The powers that be know that LSU is one of the most viewed programs in America. Okay. I think in terms of total viewers, I saw a chart from 2016 to 2022. LSU, I believe, was third only behind Alabama and Georgia. Okay. So it's us against someone else. LSU draws in more eyeballs. Okay. Nine. Let's go to G Ledoux. Everybody, welcome G Ledoux 13 to the channel. Y'all show G Ledoux some love. Keep the East and West. Move Alabama and Auburn to the East. With Texas, Oklahoma, Mizzou in the West. Play all your Division 2 from other division. No permanent. So here's the good news, G Ledoux, is there will no longer be divisions in the SEC. I cannot state this enough. one of the dumbest things that we have in sports are divisions. Conferences are needed for some sports, like college football. You got to have a conference, right? You can't play, 50 games to play everybody in the Power Five. But in the NBA, they have divisions that serve no purpose. Major League Baseball, they have divisions that serve no purpose. You play everybody, okay? The SEC, two best teams get into the SEC championship game, okay? So, no need for divisions anymore. I'm glad the SEC is being progressive about that because you don't need it. You don't need them. It is something that has just never really made a whole lot of sense to me. There are a lot of sports that don't need divisions and conferences, but we do it because, well, they feel like they have to. You don't. You don't. The way you prove it is by playing other conferences. You don't prove it playing each other. Yeah, and look, I like non-conferences as well. I really do. As much as I loved watching the LSU Texas 2019 game over and over and over again, the one thing that really has stuck at me is Texas never made the return trip to Baton Rouge. Okay, so it sucks. It absolutely sucks. Now, as much as people like to crap on the Big 12, they have long had the best schedule in the sport. Okay. The Big 12 has the best conference format in terms of scheduling because the Big 12, when it moved to 10 teams, when Texas A&M and Missouri joined the SEC, they didn't have a conference championship. They didn't have a conference championship game for the longest. And I loved that because you play everybody in the conference. But they made a conference championship game to make more money, and the playoff was obviously hurting the Big 12 because they didn't play an extra conference championship game. It was unnecessary because you've already played everybody, right? So I've always enjoyed the Big 12. I always have in that schedule format. But we don't have just 10 teams. We have 16. So I think a good compromise is a 9-game conference schedule where you play 3 teams every season and the other 6 rotate. If not for divisions, LSU has less to brag about last year. True. Okay. But we are a championship program. All right. Bragging about SEC West championships. So what? Right? We want to unequivocally be the best. We do. All right. Now, Jared, you get to pick the next topic. Anything under the sun you want to talk about, LSU football related. Let's get to it. Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, it is. It does give you a little bit more this or that. But honestly, as great as what we did in year 1 was, let's take it to another level in year 2. Let's actually win the whole shebang. Right? There you go. I doubt they hire somebody, but I could see, BK bringing in someone as well. But, there are so many people that can fill into that role that's already in that building. I could see a, a John Randall Belton, step into that role. There's a lot of different people in there, but yeah. Now, let's see. We are at $7 in super chat, so good little ways before we give out that autograph card. USC is in for a rude awakening. Oh, yeah, with the new Big Ten. Yeah, look, the hardest thing about it is the job these administrators are doing is getting as much money as they possibly can. All right. Because, look, this will always be the case in sports. All right. This will always be the case. The business model of sports doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense, in particular in college football, right? And this has always been the case. When I explain how college football works to people that don't know how it works, it doesn't make any sense to them. Like professional football makes sense. You sign for a team, they pay you a salary, and that's where the money goes. College sports is different, right? Where you have to explain that football subsidizes, all these other sports, and then NIL, and then there's a portal. It's a weird thing. So, as with the case in the entertainment industry, any entertainment business model, their job is to squeeze every last living cent out of what they have. And that, of course, dilutes and ruins and waters down the product, right? We're talking about game sevens in the NBA. Ludicrous. Game 7-game series is stupid. It's absolutely asinine. But it's sold to you that that's the best way to determine, playoff, because it gives you more inventory, right? It's more stuff, right? But it's not good. And then the NFL. Let's add an extra playoff team. Really? 7 playoff teams, 6 was an absolutely perfect number. Did you know that the 7th team in the NFL playoffs actually just ended up being another division opponent for each of the 2 seeds that they had already beaten twice during the season? So it's crazy. And now you got USC playing UCLA flying to the Big Ten. Why? Doesn't make any sense. That's what Greg Sankey said today. You cannot just let money make all your decisions. TJ, good to see you. Got some Aaron Anderson love in the chat. Good to see you, Blaine. Don't forget, I just have a few more. I actually sold 2 of these recently. PHL hats. Type Y for yes, type N for no if you do have a PHL hat. Type Y for yes, type N for no. Do you have a Power Hour LSU hat? Yeah, big hair. Huh? Look at Tyler. He's rocking his. That's good. TJ's got hat number 7. I love it. Got to get Granite a PHL hat pretty soon. Wore it all the time. Let's go. Now, before I get to this next topic, type Y for yes, type N for no. And I want your honest opinions. I want you to be as honest as I possibly can, or as you possibly can. Did you enjoy the Joe Burrow video? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Let me know, okay, in the live chat. Type Y for yes, type N for no. Nuss Bus, good to see you. Appreciate it. Let me know. Now, let's see. I'm trying to figure out if there's any other. I mean, obviously, getting Jamar Chase. Good to see you again, Biscuit. Obviously, getting Jamar Chase on here would be pretty epic. And getting Joe on here again would be pretty epic too. But unlikely to happen. I didn't think Joe Burrow would ever happen. But it's all thanks to you. All thanks to you guys. All right. Thank you so much. It's good to see you, Dr. Morgan. Good to see you. Or would you prefer Dr. Kara? Either one. Yes. Appreciate you guys so much. Thank you. A lot of work went into it. Y'all got to let Joey B know that you enjoyed it. I don't think he's even seen it. I couldn't imagine how much he gets sent on a day-to-day basis. Thank you so much, Babs. Yeah, pray for Z. So, y'all got to listen to this.
No, baby, don't embarrass her.
I'm not going to embarrass her. What do you mean embarrass her?
She was already so sad.
She was sad? We'll put it like this. Z is sick.
But not to where she's dying, not like that, sick. She has upset stomach.
Okay.
Be more specific. You can't just say she's sick.
She's sick.
But she's a certain kind of sick.
I hope she's okay.
She's gonna be fine.
No, she's gonna be fine. She has an upset stomach. Chase is doable? No, man, I wouldn't even know what to do if Jamar Chase was on our freaking channel. We got Joe on. We got to get Jamar Chase on. That's her favorite. Jamar Chase. TLV, good to see you. Lord's disciple. No, I'm not embarrassing the dog. I just got to pray for Z, baby.
Hey, Skipper. Hey, Jacob.
Jacob just became a girl dad again. He's pop one.
Zara. Miss PHL. Hello, Tyler. Hi, baby girl.
No, she don't need to be
She's
in here.
in here. Come here, Petal. Come here, baby. Come here, baby.
She hasn't been on here in a while.
Come here, baby.
3-time girl dad.
Oh, she loves her. Z baby loves her dad.
What's up, Roby? Go Pels. How do you know when a dog is embarrassed?
Okay, so after the episode happened, she cowed down, put her head down, had her tail tucked under her booty. She's probably. Did you wash your hands after you ate your ribs?
No, she's getting some rib sauce.
She loves her daddy. Oh, she is, Carter.
Yeah, she got some rib sauce. Oh,
Did
no.
you text Dad? My dad?
Yeah, I sent on the photo.
Well, he's asleep.
Yeah. He had his PHL hat on when he was welcoming his kid into the world.
Aww.
That's cool.
That's so neat.
That's cool.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's cool.
The baby. She didn't want to know. She didn't. Bless her bones.
Mm.
Look at her, baby. She loves you.
I know. All that sugar. She liked that rib sauce. She liked that.
Who makes the best ribs?
I don't know.
Okay.
No, her dad's a grill master.
Your father-in-law.
Cat daddy. She didn't want to disappoint y'all.
No, her never does. She's such a baby.
All right. Type O for offense. Type D for defense. What would you guys like to talk about
Taking
next?
the baby to bed. Later, guys.
Later, babs.
Come on, Piddle. Come on, Piddle.
Type O for offense. Type D for defense. Okay. Let me know. Let's go. All right. So you want to talk? We'll talk some Mason Smith. You know, I'm down. Don't catch the doo-doo bug from Z getting licked in the mouth. What's a doo-doo bug? What is the doo-doo bug? Michael B, good to see you. So we're gonna talk some special teams. Now we're gonna talk some defense. The big general, the pass rusher. There you go. I love it. Now, I want to start with the defense here. You know, I Greg Brooks's name was actually attached to the title of today's video, but you know, the secondary plays a lot better if we can get pass rush. As Dr. Morgan points out, you got to get pressure up front, and getting Mason back is going to be huge. Getting Makai back, I think Mason is a little bit has a little bit more upside as a pass rusher, but you know, one thing I give Wingo a lot of credit for, he is really good at batting down passes. Really good. He does a good job of getting in the pass angle, and if he can't get home, he makes life difficult for the quarterback. Okay. How are we feeling about special teams this year with the new special teams coach? Can you book Slade Roy on again soon? So I did speak to Slade over the weekend, and he is going to let me know what works best for him. So obviously, a lot of our players just went to Senegal, and you know, it's a long trip. So he's back. He's spending time with his family. I know his parents. So obviously, I told him whenever he's ready to jump back on. So we were going to try and do it again on Tuesday, but you know, once again, I want everybody to be healthy. And obviously, you know, when you have flown all over the country and flown all over the world recently, you know, you want them to be where, you know, the jet lag is gone and all that stuff. So Slade will be on again. He has confirmed. And we did get confirmation that we will get, I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but we do have a current player that is very interested in jumping on our channel. Okay. That won't be announced just yet, but we did get confirmation and we're really looking forward to that. Okay. So, how are we feeling about special teams this year with the new special teams coach? But yeah, Slade's coming on again. I've gotten a lot of requests about Slade, and obviously he's hopefully going to be a guest forever because he is so good. I like where LSU is special teams wise. I do think, though, there was a lot of you that were really perturbed that Greg McMahon was hired by Tulane. Okay. Now, this was a question that was privately asked of me. And I'll bring it up now because, you did super chat about special teams. Why didn't Brian Kelly keep Greg McMahon? Well, for two reasons. Number one, Greg McMahon was really close with Ed Orgeron, and he was an Orgeron guy to the point where LSU waited actually to fully get Greg McMahon on staff, and he was as good of a assistant coach we have ever had as a position coach ever at LSU. I mean, he was really good. Our special teams was amazing. It was really good, and it was good before him. And I think last year you could make a strong case that was our worst special teams year ever. Okay. How much of that is on Polian? How much of that is on roster depletion? There's a lot of different people you could point to as to why the special teams did some regression. Okay. Now, it did not help that the field goal kickers had a rough day in the spring game. But Ramos was good for us last year. Okay. And Jay Bramblett was really good for us last year. Okay. And Slade Roy was really good for us last year. Our deep snapper made one of the biggest plays of the season against Mississippi State. But special teams is going to be better. I think LSU is going to spend more time getting everything put together for special teams. But yeah, it's one thing you do worry about, Grant, on special teams is a lot of your best special teamers are oftentimes defensive backs. And LSU's DB room is very shaky right now as far as who is going to start and play where. So can LSU get some of these backup type of players to step up and be good special teamers? Okay. And every time special teams get brought up, we used to be able to boot the football out of the back of the end zone every time with Avery Atkins. And this will be a PHL take for the end of time, but Avery Atkins is one of the most dominant LSU football players ever at his position. I mean, he was really good. All right. Now, his position was rare. You don't really kick off all that much during the course of the game, but he was really good at it. And we didn't have to worry about kickoff team because 80% of his kickoffs would go out of the back of the end zone. And this year, with the true freshman kickoff specialist, Nathan Dybert would kick the football out of bounds and give the other team really good field position. That's not what it's not what we want, right? So, yes, a lot of our special teams issues were individual special teams issues, but the team special teams issues are going to need to get better. Okay. Let's take the Tennessee game. The punt return that they set up versus us to make it a 10-0 lead was huge, right? And something else, Grant, about special teams that is very key is let's get to a point where we're not even worried about it. And let's have our offense be so freaking good that we're going to be blowing teams out that a drop punt here or a missed field goal there doesn't decide the game. And that's going to be key as well, because there's going to be a game or two every year where your special teams isn't good, right? There were some years where even some of the best LSU teams did not have their best days on special teams, right? 2019 LSU. Auburn special teams was by far their worst special teams game of the season. We still found a way to win. Clemson was also a rough special teams game. More of them doing really good things on special teams than the other way around. But, still, so much of what you do on offense affects your special teams. Can you stay on the field? to stay away from special teams is pretty critical as well. Okay. And this is a good point here from John Sibley, one of our most generous PHLers. We can't do what we're doing if it wasn't for him. If you're recruited by LSU, you should be able to adjust and play special teams. There you go. Appreciate it. Hopefully we get a bunch of $5, $10, $20 matches coming up. But yes, Mason Smith is going to be absolutely massive. Have a lot of you wanted to chat some defense. That's good. Obviously, this is going to be one of the most hyped linebacker cores we've ever had. I mean, honestly, since Devin White returning at LSU, this is going to be the most hyped off-ball linebacker pairing we've had since 2018, right? With Harold Perkins coming back and Omar Spates, stepping in and being a leader for us next year. Okay, so who's going to play behind him? Is it going to be Whit Weeks? Is it going to be Wes Weeks? Is it going to be somebody else? We'll see. There we go. Lots of Mason Smith questions tonight. Okay. I like it. We'll go to TJ and then we'll go to Cole in just a second. Is Mason the first Tiger called off the board in next year's draft? Very good question. All right. The first thing you have to ask yourself, does Mason Smith have Jalen Carter type of potential, right? Because he's not an edge rusher, and edge rushers are a little bit more of a premium than, let's say, a defensive tackle. But if you have Jalen Carter in your repertoire, that gives you first overall pick potential. Okay. So does Mason Smith have that in the arsenal? I would say yes. Now, the likelihood that he hits that level, there would need to be a lot of things, because Jalen Carter is one of the best SEC defensive tackles we have ever seen, ever. Okay. And yes, he played alongside other great defensive linemen, but most elite defensive linemen play alongside other great defensive linemen, right? So, would he be the first off the board? I think obviously his biggest challenger would be Malik Neighbors. And there could be some others that could challenge Mason as a first Tiger off the board. Obviously, someone who's very fascinating would be Mekhi Wingo. He would be draft eligible next year. I don't think he is first round capital, but I could see it. It's within the realm of possibility. And obviously, the most fascinating wild card of them all is Jaden. Could Jaden slide up draft boards that much? I doubt it. I think, there were so many quarterbacks taken in this last year where, Drake May and Kaleb Williams for sure are going to be selected ahead of him. And then it comes down to who's QB3, QB4, QB5. I think Quinn Ewers, I don't think Quinn Ewers is that good, but he's going to get a lot of love. Appreciate you, Skipper. But obviously, in a perfect world, it's Jaden Daniels who slides into the number 1 overall pick or number 2 pick or number 3 pick or whatever. Because if that's the case, that means we won a lot of football games. So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to go with Malik Neighbors, though, right now. I think Malik is a wide receiver 2 behind I think he's a wide receiver 2 behind Marvin Harrison at this point. There are some others, obviously Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman, who are going up against in the Florida State game. The Emeka Ibuka at Ohio State is also very interesting. So, yeah. With Mason's addition up front, Do you think our DBs can hold up against FSU and Bama? It's a very good super chat question. And Cole, I really appreciate you. Okay. So let's start with the second part first and then go to the first. All right. Can our DBs hold up against Alabama? Yes. I don't really fear Alabama with our defensive backs because their wide receivers are not the best wide receiver grouping we're going to see this year in the SEC. And I think by far the best group of receivers we're going to play next year is Florida State. Yeah, there are some other schools that have good pieces. Obviously, Texas A&M's receiver grouping is really talented. They've got some really good 5-star, high-level 4-stars that have turned out to be pretty good players. And they got a good tight end in Green as well. But overall, your point still remains the same. With the potential addition of a good pass rusher up the middle, can we be better on the back end? Abso-freaking-lutely yes. Okay. Let's go to Connor Beaver channel. We talking baseball. We could chat some baseball really quickly. We always answer first-time commenters, even though this would likely be Connor's only time ever tuning in because of this week. I will say on Thursday we are doing a pretty heavy baseball show with Blake Ruffino, obviously, but we're going to do a lot of football stuff as well. So Thursday, AYS will be on PHL, so we're really looking forward to that. As Blake has been on my channel a bunch. I've been on his channel a gazillion times as well. But yeah, Oregon State versus LSU, obviously, man, historically, so much history with LSU and Oregon State baseball. So really looking forward to it. Connor, I don't know anything about Oregon State baseball. And there's a lot of people here that could break down LSU baseball better than me. I do think the most interesting thing, though, was LSU electing to play the 2 p.m. game instead of the night game. I think that's a major, major, major win for Oregon State. I think, when you travel from west to east, playing a night game just going to always be better than playing an earlier game. But I do agree with LSU also playing a day game because it does give you rest advantage theoretically with your team and pitching staff. But I thought that was interesting. I there was a piece of me that thought LSU was going to elect to play the night game. But there you go. And don't worry, LSU's pitching staff is very hurt as well. So there you go. Let's go to Max holding it down, the PHL New York City chapter president. But there you go. So Pat Casey is no longer there. Very interesting. I guess he did retire. He was kind of older. Does pass rush, were you on the edges when Harold Perkins isn't coming? Pause. Off exotic blitzes from there. Saban was solid in run D and in certain packages. Okay. Yeah, let's do it. I will say, I am a big Jonathan Smith fan, and Oregon State is very lucky that someone with deeper pockets did not go to Jonathan Smith this year. That guy can coach, and we got one of those best players, Omar Spates, coming over, but that's not here nor there. Also, here, I do have a huge stack of Brandon Cooks cards. These are all Brandon Cooks cards. I've always collected this stuff. There you go. Speaking of Oregon State. There you go, man. We don't want any angry beavers in here. Huh? Oh, man. Next thing you know, Norvell and Daggett will be in here. Now, that is a dad joke. That is a Nickelodeon dad joke if I've ever heard it. I know y'all watch that show. I know y'all watch that show. Does pass rush worry you on the edges when Harold Perkins isn't coming off the edge off exotic blitz packages from there? Savian was solid. In run D and in certain packages. Okay. I think for me, am I worried about pass rush? Yeah, you're always worried about pass rush, especially when BJ Ojolari is no longer there. Okay. Ojolari was so big for us. He won us the Auburn game. He was really good in that game, and he was really good in some other big spots for us as well. But yeah, I think for me, one of the biggest things for LSU when it comes to the exotic blitzing is on third and longs. Can LSU get to the point where on these third and longs, they are able to just bring four? Now, what's interesting is against teams like Ole Miss, LSU was able to get home just with four guys. And then, versus Alabama, Harold Perkins was able to just chase down Bryce Young with these delayed QB spy looks. And I think quarterbacks were always kind of spooked when they could not outrun Harold Perkins like they could in the past. So it's very interesting. But I also think you're going to see Harold Perkins blitzing off the edge quite a bit. And you could see a scenario where Harold Perkins is just playing some jack in some base packages, right? I could also see LSU getting kind of exotic with Harold Perkins and Ovia Gufu on the field at the same time, or Harold Perkins and Jackson Howard on the field at the same time. You could see it. You absolutely could see it. So there you go. Master P, what's up? No Limit Records, baby. Next thing you know, we're dropping freestyles on this thing. Hey, girl, good to see you. Our best QB was a Purdue transfer named Danny Etling. Danny Etling was good. Zach Mettenberger was better. Okay. We got some weak slow. I love it. Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly did bring up earlier that it was a little concerning, like how much he's had to dive into the transfer portal, and that he does want to develop a little bit more through high school recruiting. You brought that up earlier today on Feinbaum. So it is very interesting. Let me see this. I want to make sure. Interesting. I'm reading some on Romeo. Hey, don't be getting on Romeo. James, everybody show James some love. LaTerrence Welch, I love it. I'm down for some LW27. Let's go. Seven and 5. Dang, I didn't know Master P was an Ole Miss fan. That's crazy. Did not know that. Gator fan either. A lockdown corner. Huh? That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. You know, one thing I've seen. Just don't trust Kelly to win big games. I guess the weed was hitting in early November. I guess. Was there a big game that happened then that decided the SEC West? I don't know. Do you ever think Louisiana could support 2 Power 5s? I'm hearing a lot of rumblings that we might add Tulane as a travel partner with SMU. I think it could, but once again, I think if you're LSU, you want to remain the monopoly in the state. But still, I think I don't know. I think SMU would be very interesting, obviously in Dallas, but I don't know. You do worry about some of these metropolitan area cities that have a lot of talent that become P5 schools. If you're Texas, do you want another P5 school in your region? Probably not. Tell them. Oh, the Pac Gulf. That was actually, Richard, my first ever game in Tiger Stadium. Epic field goal, rain delay, streaker, Jay Russell, Randall. Man, that was such a crazy game. You know what the wildest thing about that game was? Alexis Cerna was the kicker. And God, Oregon State had some good players. They had who was it? Connor, was it Anderson was a quarterback then, who ended up having a really good NFL career. But the funniest thing about Alexis Cerna missing the 3 extra points in a field goal was he ended up winning the Lou Groza So he ended up being one of the best kickers you could possibly be. Probably Oregon State's best kicker that they've ever had. Won the freaking Groza. It's just crazy. And I think, Connor, I did some research on Alexis Serna not too long ago. I think he works for the university now. So yeah, that ended up being the best for us. Not only did we get lucky to win that game, that kicker ended up moving on from that and being a legend, right? Being one of the best players at Oregon State, right? It's pretty cool stuff. Mm. No, we would have blown Purdue out. They would have needed more players than just him. I mean, they played so bad. Let's see. Now, here's what we're going to do. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to answer as many questions as we possibly can. But if you super chat, we'll keep this party moving all night long. Okay? In the next 10 minutes. Hey, Hal, we'll keep it going for you, man. Ask whatever you want. Super chat will stay. We'll keep it moving. I do have to go tend to the dog. Because she is sick. This is the most infuriating thing when people bring up that a team didn't have a player who wasn't even on that year's team. I mean, I get bringing up, hey, the team didn't have Aiden O'Connell, but if you say, well, the team didn't have Karlaftis, well, they didn't have him the rest of the season either. So there you go. Let's go to Jason. How cool was it interviewing Joey B? So it wasn't an interview. We were just honestly, in there talking. And yeah, it was great. Obviously, meeting him was a bigger deal. But more importantly, Jason, my dad, it was more important to be in there with him and to see all of us laughing at his storytelling and all that stuff was really cool. And that's what I really wanted to be about. Obviously, I'm just speaking this into existence. I'm going to do some other stuff with Joe down the road. It was cool. I was able to give him some of his high school cards and a bunch of cards of Jets and, all his teammates and I think some T. Higgins stuff as well. But yeah, I think for me, it was a scenario where it was better just meeting Joe again. Now, I've never actually personally met him, but I've asked him questions in press conference settings. But yeah, hopefully one day, Joe was super busy that day, obviously. There's a lot going on right now. hopefully one day I'll get to do another like real sit down. And I wish I could have been able to that day. But he was a busy guy. It was cool, meeting a few other people around there as well. And hopefully it lends itself to Jamar Chase and Tyrann Mathieu. But, I had a short period of time, and, I would love the opportunity to ask him all the questions that I wanted to ask him. But the number one thing that we had been doing, I wanted to also have it all tie into what we're doing, was doing a lot of these greatest throws of all time kind of stuff. And it was cool to ask the man behind 3rd and 17 to actually, be 3rd and 17 and actually do a breakdown on it. It was obviously cool. But I hope to get to see Joe again and tell him how much that moment meant to me. But yeah, that's basically it. I wasn't I wanted the trip to be mostly that, and there you go. But Joe, if you're watching this, I appreciate it. But yeah, Jason, it was definitely cool. Definitely cool. Rumor on the street is that FSU and Clemson to the SEC in 2026. Let's see here. James with the super chat. There you go, James. Anything you want to ask James, you go right on ahead. Cole, thank you for your super chat. I really appreciate you. Did you have more butterflies, meaning Joe or Peyton? Definitely Joe. But honestly, with Peyton, there was all the other Mannings there, right? But the main thing is obviously with both of them, TJ, I met them with my dad. So, these experiences are big. And I just put it out in the atmosphere that I'm going to get these opportunities again. And I want to enjoy them, obviously, as much as I possibly can with, the person I love more than anybody. But it was weird, obviously I grew up idolizing Peyton Manning, but Joe Burrow is all of our favorite LSU football players. And the fact the whole thing didn't really hit me until, I'm in this room and I'm with the two people that have brought me the most joy in my life. All right. My dad and Joe Burrow. Don't tell Helly that. But obviously she's up there, right? It's Joe Burrow, my dad, Tyrann Mathieu, and then Haley. Okay. Kidding. But yeah, it was great. It was great. Let's go to James' super chat. Carter, will Lance Hurd eventually start at one of the offensive tackle spots this season? No. I think it's going to be Emory Jones and Will Campbell this next year. But I would put it at a 45% chance. Okay. I would put it at a 45% chance that they actually move him. Okay. So, yeah, I do think towards the end of last year, Emory Jones, the Texas A&M game, was not his best. I thought the holding call on him, though, was BS in the middle of that third quarter. And then the Georgia game, he had his moments, but, Georgia's defensive line is so good. I do think he is better served at guard. As many of you know, Emory Jones was my number one offensive player in that class, and I had him graded as a guard. But offensive tackle, he's obviously talented enough to play that spot, from start to finish. So I do think it'll be Will and Emory, but I think you could see, excuse me, a scenario where Will stays at left, Lance moves in at right tackle, and Emory Jones kicks in at one of the guard spots. You could see that. Or you could see James next year. Will and Emory get a few series off and someone else play off to tackle some, especially if some of these games get out of hand. So there you go. James's first super chat. I really appreciate you, man. It goes a long way. Every bit counts, man. Every bit counts. I really appreciate it. Grant, Jared, TJ, Cole, Skipper, Max with the pause, and James. Y'all been killing it tonight. Absolutely killing it. Drew Brees is the next logical step. That'd be cool. But I'm gonna let you in on something, TJ. I'm gonna let you in. I've lost sleep over the Joe Burrow thing because I am one of these people. When I interview somebody, I kick myself for not asking this question or doing this, especially when Joe is at the top of the mountain. So yeah, I hope one day I get to do just a sit down with them. But my mind kind of went blank when I was in there. Like I was there the whole time, and yeah, it's just one of those things where you watch someone for so freaking long, and then you're seeing them, and he's not even near the peak of his celebrity. I mean, he's one of the biggest celebrities in the United States. So it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. James with another super chat. James, fire away another question, man. This is what it's all about. When you super chat, doesn't matter how big or small it is. You get to ask a question and I'll answer it. And you guys know after an hour, we are more than happy to dive into a few different topics. So there you go. Let's go, Pierce. Let's see. Oh, we're halfway to the hundo mark. Halfway to a hundo. We might get an autographed card out tonight. Are you serious? That would be crazy. Man, I would love to chat with Joe again. I really would. But to be honest, though, I think, and I really do mean it, like Joe and I had a good conversation. The first thing, whenever I'm going into a room with someone of that stature, you want to try and make them laugh. You don't want it to be one of these, imbalanced situations. And obviously, Joe smiled so big when I shook his hand. I think I said shiesty or something like that. But my dad is so freaking funny. He lights up a room everywhere he goes. And yeah, I hope my goal is to do something big with Joe and his foundation, or any LSU legend, Jamar, Tyron. I know those guys. I know those guys do probably a lot of philanthropy Yeah, I know Tyron does for sure. But yeah, I know Joe's big on philanthropy. I hope I get to do something like that down the road. Let's see. What autograph card are we going to give away tonight? Do you see any running backs separating themselves this year? If so, which one and why? Are we doing the committee approach again? Okay. James, we'll get to your. Actually, you got in first here. So we talked about Letterrence a little bit. I think it can be. It's just in the spring game, the plays he made weren't against Malik and BTJ. So obviously he's going to get his opportunity to play against the better teams and the better players. So there you go. Now let's go to Michael B. And Michael B., I know skill guys is something that you love. I know you're a big Justin Jefferson fan. So running back by committee is what they're going to do. I think the day of the bell cow running back is long gone. I think committees are the way it's going to be. And what I think, I actually read a very interesting interview today on Football Scoop about a Notre Dame's running back coach. I don't remember the guy's name, but he actually does something very interesting. He gives running backs different jobs, right? Instead of like first string, second string. And most teams do this, but he actually writes it down. Who is my goal line guy? Who is my pass catching guy? Who is my first down, second down? Who do I count on in those spots? But he specifically looks at it that way instead of who's first team, second team, and all that stuff. Or it was something like that. And obviously I'm paraphrasing here. Josh Williams, Logan Diggs, and Noah Cain are on a different tier than everybody else. Okay. It's just that simple. They are on a different tier. Logan Diggs obviously has produced more than the other backs in this room with his over 800 yards this past year. And he does have some pass catching chops as well. But yeah, I think for me, as far as like running backs separating themselves, I think Logan Diggs has a very good opportunity to do that because right now he is the healthiest of the backs. It's going to be interesting to see if Josh can get fully healthy before next season. I think he will be. They just took him very cautiously. And obviously, Noah Cain does have some injury history, but he was really good for us last year. And then obviously you get to the next tier of guys, and that group is headlined by Trey Holly and Kaleb Jackson, the two newbies, and Armani Goodwin, who, has been so hurt throughout his career. Armani's also really small. So there you go. I think, for me, the running back room is looking pretty good going into next year for LSU. Now, are we the best running back room in the SEC? I think we're close. I think we're in that discussion. There are other groups that have a little bit, bigger of a star as their number one guy, with Ole Miss and Arkansas having their guys. But, I think Logan Diggs and Josh Williams are going to be neck and neck for who's actually going to be the leading rusher next year. So let me know if I answered that question correctly. And Michael B followed up about Jay Jets. It's interesting. I know it's your favorite player. There's a big debate in fantasy football on who the best receiver is going into next year. And speaking of fantasy football, if you want to play fantasy with me, let's go. So, if you love Power Hour content, you will love Underdog Fantasy, baby. Sign up right now. There you go. Promo code Carter. Sign up today. It helps grow, obviously, the PHL movement. And let's see. Where is it? Bang. Sign up now. Promo code Carter if you want to play fantasy football with me. I know a lot of fantasy footballers are in here. Sign up now. Promo code Carter goes a long freaking way. Okay. So, who will be LSU's starting center? Good question. Very good question, James. Now, James, it is not lost on me. All right. Anytime I see the last name Wilkerson, I think about one of my favorite LSU players growing up, which is Ben Wilkerson. So, shout out to you. If you're related to him, that would be even cooler. I would love to talk to Ben. Ben's post-football playing career has been very interesting. But yes, Ben Wilkerson. And by the way, Michael B is one of our reigning PHL fantasy football champions. There you go. Who will be LSU starting center? I'm going to go with Charles Turner. I am. I know Marlon Martinez has gained steam in that room. So yeah, I think it's going to be Charles Turner. I think they're going to run it back with him. Is he the best? No. Does he get overpowered from time to time? Yeah, he does. But I always love me some Charles Turner. It's one of his rarest cards. 1-of-1 autograph. There you go. So I'm gonna go with Charles Turner. Okay. Yeah, Ashton Stamps. How about that? That's crazy. Now, I understand. You guys come to PHL for an escape. But something very sad did happen in the Baton Rouge community. I think a lot of you have seen this national story. A kid jumped off a boat and he has not been found. Please. These TikTok challenges have got to stop. And I'm perfectly fine. Like if I see a content creator or an influencer out in the wild doing some kind of dance or something like that, I'm fine with it. It looks crazy. Live your life. But please tell your kids, tell your nieces, don't fall for it. Right? End of lecture. But I swear, I swear, the Tide Pod Challenge. Now we got people jumping off of boats. Sad stuff. Whole life in front of him. Sad freaking stuff. And I hope he gets found. I hope he's found. Some sad stuff, y'all. Life is not a game. And I'm not a big boat guy. So, those currents, they're crazy. And I understand. Sometimes I have to, though. If you have an audience, you sometimes got to share some stuff like that. Like, I'm sure some of you are familiar with this young man. But it just sucks. It really, really, really sucks. And I would do that. I mean, we've all done crazy things, probably like college and high school and all of that stuff. But I really, really hope for the best for them. The way this roster is coming together, it's hard to spot a weak spot. Yeah, it's true, Jason. I mean, there's a lot of strengths on this team. Obviously, offensive line should be better. Quarterback should be a strength. Wide receiver should be a strength. Defensive line, linebacker should be a strength. Gotten a lot of Aaron Anderson questions. Obviously very talented. I know Brian Kelly thinks very highly of him. Number one, I am not posted a huge fan of giving out single digits to guys who've not done anything yet. It's a lot of pressure. It is a lot of pressure to rock a single digit. And a lot of you think I overblow that kind of stuff. It's just the truth. Right? Deion Sanders said it. If you rock it, you better be him. Okay. So yeah, LSU thinks really highly of him to do that. And obviously, his high school tape is really good at Edna Carr, and he had a few interesting plays in some of the Bama practices and spring games, but his health is going to be a key, and obviously posted his biggest value next year to go along with Grant's super chat from earlier is going to be special teams. So there you go. Let's see. Doug believes in him. Doug knows about Aaron Anderson. See what I did there? I love it. Now, we're going to do this again. Big thanks to, obviously, Mr. Wilkerson, a first-time super chatter, for dropping these in late, along with Michael B., who's been one of our biggest donators here on PHL. So good to have you back, man. And it's so, you're so key. You know it. All your generosity. There you go. Derek Dillon, shout out to him. Game-winning touchdown for the Memphis Showboats, coached by Todd Haley. Now, what's interesting is he caught the football from Southeastern Louisiana quarterback Cole Kelly, who played at Arkansas, was originally from Lafayette, who survived a gunshot to his leg early in his life. Cole Kelly's story is amazing. That was really cool, and the run was actually really good. Okay. Let's go to Michael B., another generous super chat. Outside of Perkins, who in our front seven is a game changer for us? Obviously, Mason, if he is fully healthy, ready to go. Wingo, if he's fully healthy and ready to go. And they are, right? They took him very slowly in spring, and for good reason. I think for both of them, for opposite reasons, they were taken slowly in spring. Mason, obviously, we're recovering from the tear. And obviously, Wingo playing an unbelievably high snap share. Okay. So, all right, JSP, we'll see you on Thursday night. Once again, Blake will be on Thursday to chat everything baseball. Okay. So if you guys have baseball questions, feel free to fire them in. You can fire them in now, but obviously on Thursday, we'll talk to someone who watches every pitch of every game. But yeah, Mason Smith, obviously, and Mekhi Wingo are going to be, the defensive linemen. Jordan Jefferson has got some very interesting potential. And then obviously Savion Jones is coming into this season with a lot of hype. You know, Savion Jones says and does the right things. He is a run and chase defensive end with a lot of energy. He plays very similar to a Sam Montgomery, right? They're not the biggest benders or not the absolute most amazing fluid pass rushers, but they're just really solid, productive players. And look, obviously, you know, their roles in the defense are somewhat similar, but also very different. You know, Savion Jones has got an interesting year ahead of him. And then obviously we're all hoping and crossing our fingers for some former top 150 guys to emerge, a Bryce Langston, a Quincy Wiggins. But we'll see. Obviously, those guys still apparently have a long way to go in terms of the speed and the technique of being a Division I SEC defensive lineman. It's difficult. It's very difficult. But those guys have a lot of athleticism and potential. All right, TJ, we'll see you. How do you adjust the donation amount? Let's see. Are you doing it on mobile? I can get that for you really quickly. Or I do have Venmo and Cash App. Let's see here. I'm gonna pull up on myself. All right, there we go. It's kind of weird watching me. Dang. 8-game schedule made a comeback. So super chat. Okay, if you're doing this on the phone right here, if you scoot this thing over like this, I think that's how that works. Yes, that's how you do it. There's like a little bar right here. And obviously you want to keep going. I'm just kidding. You don't want to keep going. What if I accidentally sent myself that much? But yeah, I think that's how you do it on mobile. I don't know how to do it on desktop. Oh, you're on a smartphone? So let's do it again. So on the smartphone, as you can see, there is an icon right there. All right. So you hit that. And then you choose between Super Sticker and Super Chat. You want to click Super Chat right there. And then you want to grab the little thing right here and drag it however much you want to give. Okay. However much you want. Obviously, it gets a little crazy up here. And I think the all-time Super Chat leader, Michael B is up there. Jared is definitely up there. Jordan is definitely up there as well. But I still think you guys remember King Robert. Rest in peace. I miss his energy in the chat. King Robert was a movement, man. I still keep up, talk to his sister every now and then. King Robert, man. I still think he is the top super chatter. And he's just for those that are new and you might not know who that is, he left us over a year ago. RIP to the GOAT. But yeah, I mean, he was so generous. But yeah, I mean, a lot of you are up there, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys. But you guys remember, I mean, King Robert would jump in here, not only just dropping bags, but just dropping knowledge. But yeah, it was so strange going to his funeral and meeting all his family. I'll never forget that. Never forget that. And I never got to meet him. There you go, James. I appreciate your generosity. It goes a long way. So, any topic under the sun, James, you want to talk about, we will go straight to it. Okay? We will go straight to it. Okay, let's see. Van is definitely up there too. Van is I talked with Van earlier this evening. I won't let you know where he was. He was actually somewhere pretty magical. But yeah, James is moving up the ladder. Hopefully, you keep doing it. And once again, if you want to join the PHL Patreon, there you go. James, if you join the PHL Patreon, I'll send you this Charles Turner card tonight, where you get extra film studies, all 22 breakdowns of the 2019 team. So there you go. Fire that final question in, man. Hey, if you super chat, guess what? When you super chat, you keep it going. Just don't bring up KJ. I'm telling you, KJ can play, man. You guys know I'm just a fan of greatness, right? That's why, I got accused 1,000 times of being a Bryce Young homer. I don't care if he plays for Alabama. He can play, right? He can really play. And last year, you guys are saying the same thing to me. And Doug, you saw this when I was telling you Tennessee was going to win the East and have a massive season. Okay. And everybody's like, no, really? Tennessee? I told y'all to smash that over on the win total. But nope. No, don't listen to me. What do I know? Yeah, Hal. I'm gonna save a lot of it for Thursday. So there you go. Will Trey Holly or Kaleb Jackson play significant carries this fall or not? Great question. Let's start with both of them. How about that? High school wise, as far as being ready to play in year one, you would like to think that Trey Holly is ahead of Kaleb Jackson because he was there in the spring, right? And Trey Holly is healthier, okay, because he obviously played all of last year, was insanely durable, and Kaleb Jackson had a bad leg injury. Now, James, I know you're relatively new. I think I've seen you in here before, and I appreciate your generosity tonight. I speak to a lot of people in the Devi fantasy community, all right? And what Devi is they actually, it's a form of fantasy football where you actually draft high school seniors that are college freshmen. And so you got to do your evaluations based on their high school tape and all of that. And Kaleb Jackson is adored in the fantasy community by the Devi, right? They love him. They love his tape. They love his athleticism. Fantasy footballers tend to be a little bit more athleticism based compared to film based. I do think Trey Holly is probably the more skilled back in terms of catching it out of the backfield, making people miss and all of that. But Kaleb Jackson is a unit. And athletically, Kaleb Jackson gives you a little bit more juice as just a straight up athlete than Trey Holly. He's bigger and he also has more straight line speed. Now, he is a little bit more, once again, straight line. Like he is more built in the form of like a Fournette or a Darren McFadden, whereas a Trey Holly has a little bit more wiggle to his game. So obviously that's going to be more of like your Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but he can bang it up in there if you need it, and he can also catch some out of the backfield. I think Kaleb Jackson's really good though. He had a really good grade for me coming out of high school, as did Trey Holly. But Kaleb Jackson's grade was really, really, really good. So there you go. The beer is cold. With BK, the future is bright at tight end. Who in that room excites you the most and why? Very good question. So, once again, this is actually another guy that the Devy community likes a lot, and it's Kamarion Pimpton. Pimpton and Jackson moved up quite a bit for me. Kaleb Jackson before Pimpton. Obviously, Pimpton was a little bit later of an addition. A lot of this is going to be like for Pimpton. How quickly can he block, or does LSU even want him to block at all? Do they think he can be Kyle Pitts and just be a really big wide receiver? So yeah, I mean, I think Kamarion Pimpton definitely gives you some upside that a lot of players just don't have athletically. And he's got great catch radius. He's really good in the red zone. That's where he actually did most of his damage on his high school tape. He's not a blazer though. He doesn't. The one thing that every tight end gets compared now to Brock Bowers and Kamarion Pimpton. Most tight ends aren't that fast. I mean, both those guys can really scoot. But yeah, I mean, I gotta be honest with you, Ian. Mason Taylor is the complete package. Obviously, the genetics is there, the mindset is there. I was very lucky to meet and chat with Jason Taylor last year at the SEC championship game. Just his football IQ is just through the roof. And we know one thing, Mason knows the offense. He knows what Brian Kelly wants. And he's practically the only tight end that returns from that room last year. So, part of it, with Mason and Doug, thank you so much for your sounds like Kenny Hilliard and James. How about that? I like it. No ceilings. Let's go. But yeah, Michael, thank you for all your generosity tonight. I really appreciate it. But yeah, Pimpton. I'm so excited about Kamarion Pimpton. I really am. And we're very lucky that we got him there at the end. He's got some talent. Now, there will be transition. Tight end is a brutal position to learn year one. And Mason Taylor had some early growing pains that really helped him as the season moved on. But yeah, Brian Kelly has flipped the mentality of this tight end room. And hopefully we become a better tight end school. And we've produced some good tight ends. We really have. Obviously, the best in the NFL has been Foster Moreau up to this point. He's been really good. And I hope he recovers and has a great year for the New Orleans Saints. But yeah. Pierce. Oh, yeah. Should I post a photo, Pierce? Let's see. I don't think I still have it uploaded on here. No, I don't have that one. I'm sorry, Pierce. Oh man, but I think you wouldn't want me to post that photo because you would just be. Oh well, look. Speak of the devil. Speaking of Mason Taylor, There you go. Are you happy now, Pierce? Is your life complete? Huh? 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 But yeah, Joy Taylor. She was great. It was obviously really, really cool to meet. And yeah. Now you're probably wondering, I did not just stop Joy Taylor. I was with someone that knew her. And we have a few mutual friends, Joy and I. So it was definitely cool to meet her. Let's see. Tell everyone your comp for Kaleb Jackson. Get them really excited. Damian Harris. Yeah, they're very similar. Damian Harris is definitely worth it. Thank you so much, Pierce. I really appreciate the generous super chat tonight. Thank you so much. He said his life is complete. Congratulations. There you go, James. James is keeping them coming. Ain't that the truth, Mike? Ain't that the truth? There you go. Well, Pierce, I'll flash the photo every time if it gets a $20 super chat. But Damian Harris, Josh Jacobs. He's got some Josh Jacobs. Watch out. They are very similar. Josh Jacobs was a unit. But Damian Harris isn't a bad comp either. But Jacobs is better. I'll tell you this from a fantasy football standpoint. Okay, I did not think Josh Jacobs would be what he is now. I did not think he would have the season he had last year. Okay. Now, I do have some good news. Some really good news. Okay. Get $100 in super chats. Now, I'm giving out an autographed LSU card. Okay. So we'll get this one out. This is one of my favorite ones. I don't actually want to give this out now that I think about it because it is so unique. There's not a whole lot of Charles Turner autograph cards out there, especially a one of one. So this is actually kind of an expensive card. But life is meant to give things out. Okay. So I feel like it is destiny that a first-time super chatter and someone with the last name Wilkerson gets a center card. So congrats, James Wilkerson. This Charles Turner one of one card is going to you. So you might not know a whole lot about card collecting. One of one is as good as it gets. You're not going to get a better Charles Turner card than this one. So there you go. I'm actually really regretting it because the autograph on here is absolutely beautiful. So now I got to go get another Charles Turner card. But congratulations, James. This one is going to you. God, I should have thought twice about this. I am really regretting this now because these are rare. You're not going to find a whole lot of Charles Turner one-on-ones around there. So this is going to you, James. Congratulations, brother. It is yours. Now, James, shoot me an email, powerhourlsu@gmail.com, and I will send you this card. powerhourlsu@gmail.com. Okay? That was a crazy recruitment, right? He was out of Tulsa, a 3-star, but Nick just loved his tape. That was absolutely crazy. There you go, James. Congratulations. That's the thing, Pegasus. I won't be able to get another one. Yeah, I was trying to think. I was like, because you gave a thumbs up, and I was like, well, I'm pretty sure it was Josh Jacobs, and then he said, "What's up, Robert Royal?" Oh man, what a throwback! A good Robert Royal reference. What's up, Precious? I didn't see Precious sneak in here. What's up? Oh, NBA tonight. That's brutal. Hey, it's meant to be. You asked a question about the center. Your last name is Wilkerson. And I had a Charles Turner card just sitting right here. My favorite one. This is one of my favorite cards. The autograph on here is just sick. Look at that. I'm telling you, not a lot of high schoolers have penmanship this good. Okay. But yeah, shoot me an email, James, or on Twitter or Instagram, Power Hour LSU. Presley collection. We got some Presley collection folks in here. But yeah, so I was like, wait, I was pretty sure it was Josh Jacobs. But what confused me was you did a thumbs up after Damian Harris. Or maybe I said Damian Harris, but I was like, no, it's Josh Jacobs. But you were saying a thumbs up to Pegasus. But yes, Josh Jacobs. Very similar. Now, James did super chat, and he does want his question answered. Who challenges LSU in the SEC West outside of Alabama? The question or the answer to this, James, is very complex because it's everybody. The SEC West, if Alabama has truly regressed some, and they do have a lot of holes on their roster, they do have a lot of change happening. Okay. But what I would tell you as well is there you go, Eduardo. If you have something you want me to give out, I do have a PO box. So just hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, Power Hour LSU, and we can work something out, man. So I think all the teams in the West have upside going into next year, and this is, this is like very difficult to convey, but as much as the transfer portal has saved us, and Brian Kelly brought it up earlier on Feinbaum, that there's a piece of him that doesn't like getting all these guys from the portal because it shows holes in high school recruiting. That's not all his fault, but still. The thing about the portal is the portal helps the bottom half SEC teams to where you can't just run them over. All these teams have talent, right? Like, here's a good example. Arkansas. Let's take Arkansas, for instance. And we are going to be doing some SEC live streams on the SEC channel. But Arkansas, they would never recruit 5 stars. They never got 5 stars. But last year, they were able to get Drew Sanders, who was a backup 5-star to Will Anderson, to come over to Arkansas, and he was great. He was an all-SEC player. He was amazing. Went in the 3rd round, was their highest draft pick. So now these half teams, James, are getting really good football players, and a lot of these guys are coming from the group of 5 as well. A lot of these group of 5 transfers are going to these bottom half SEC teams, even if they suck, because these SEC teams have collectives and they can make more money than where they currently are, and play on a brighter stage and play better players. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. So Ole Miss is going to have a really solid team this year. You do worry about what they have at quarterback, but defensively, we'll see. Well, I think the most interesting coordinator in the SEC is Pete Golding, who willingly left Alabama to go to Ole Miss. Right? You never see that. So James wants to talk some Texas A&M. We'll do it. So Texas A&M, really good roster. Obviously, their raw talent is really good. Their defensive line's really good. They recruited a young man whose dad I know pretty well, and he was the number 1 defensive lineman in the country in DJ Hicks. And they're going to be good. They're going to be really, really good up front. And look, the simple truth is this: they can really freaking get after it on the edges. They've got good pass rushers. And look, if their offensive line plays a little bit better than it did last year, I mean, they've got talent. They really, really, really do. They get Reuben Owens, a 5-star running back. They return Le'Veon Moss. They return a lot of good pieces on defense. Their wide receiver room is arguably the best in the SEC. They get Evan Stewart back. They get Rodgers back. They get Moose Muhammad back, who destroyed us. They get Donovan Green back. The issue is going to be Jimbo for them. I think Jimbo's just stuck in the past. I think his thought process is just not sound. And I don't like some of the things he has said this offseason. I don't think this Bobby Petrino marriage is going to go great, because Bobby is a genius, and you've got to stay out of his way when it comes to play calling. Is he weird? Yes. Is he a guy that you want to be the face of your program? Probably not, but he can call plays. Bobby Petrino's probably one of the most talented play callers in the history of the SEC. You look at all the players he won with at Arkansas, none of them really did anything in the NFL. I mean, he produced big numbers. I mean, Arkansas was the number 3 team in the country when Tyrann Mathieu beat them in 2011. So, it's going to be very interesting next year, James. I think Texas A&M is a sleeper, and they do get a few schedule breaks. The only thing that's working against them is that they did draw, I believe, Tennessee in the cross division, and that obviously is a bummer. Okay. Speaking of Presley, can we get a watch giveaway one night? The only jewelry I like and that LSU watch is fire. How do we see Texas and Okie affecting the SEC as a whole? Yeah, so we did a giveaway not too long ago, and the winner was actually Big Al's wife. Big Al hadn't been in the chat. I got to reach out to him, but his wife did get an absolutely massive health report recently, and positively, which was good. So let's go to the second part of this. How do you see Texas and Okie affecting the SEC as a whole? Very good question. All right. And just to follow up really quickly on James's Texas A&M super chat here with Connor Wigman. James, I'm gonna be honest. Don't be shocked if Max Johnson is the guy next year. Okay? Don't be shocked. And I know that would be pretty jarring for a lot of people, but it would make a lot of sense if Max is the guy. He's more experienced, one. And one thing that was very interesting about Connor Wigman in the LSU game, burned his red shirt last year. So if it were possible and you start Max, let's say Connor could be your backup, and for some reason you could finagle just him playing 4 games, you get a redshirt year, and you basically steal a year back for Wigman's future development. So I think if it's close, they might actually give this job to Max. Um, I know that that's not popular. Boots on the ground at Texas A&M. Just saying, could have a Max Johnson led Texas A&M. I think that's a good thing for us. All right. Do I see Texas and Oklahoma affecting the SEC as a whole? All right, let's start with Texas. So, they recruit at a high level. They're going to be top 5, top 10 recruiters, especially now with the money. Their pockets are as deep as anyone's. Right, money's not going to be an issue for them. So, obviously, Texas can win big, but they just have so much distractions. The Board of Regents and all the politics that are involved with that job. It's just absolutely crazy. So yeah, I think Texas can be a player, but there you go. How do I see Oklahoma affecting the SEC as a whole? Richard, thank you for the super chat. We'll get to it right away. Let me finish this right here. Oklahoma affecting the SEC as a whole. Let's see. I don't know how I feel about Brent Venables. One thing I do find very interesting, Michael B., is Brent Venables is from the Dabo Swinney tree. Okay. And as much as people don't like Dabo, I, in fact, tweeted out a Dabo joke earlier today. One thing I always say about Dabo is he was unique, and he still is unique. He is a man of principle. One of my favorite things that Brent Venables is doing, not necessarily because I fully agree or disagree with this, because it is a fickle science, but I like social experiments. I do. And I think if he is doing what he is saying he is doing, I think this social experiment with Brent Venables is going to be so interesting. All right. He does not let his current commitments visit anywhere else. Okay. So what that means is, like, there's LSU commitments that go visit other schools, right? And LSU says, okay, go see if you really like it, but keep your commitment. Brent Venables doesn't play that. It's if you're committed, you are committed. And if you want to go visit somewhere else, you got to decommit. All right. Hunter, no, I remember you. Good to see you, man. I hope you stick around. We're hanging out, man. Got a lot of people back from the Joe Burrow interview. That's interesting, and it wasn't really an interview. Let's be honest. Oklahoma affecting the SEC as a whole. Yeah, and that was like just a Brent Venables aside. I can't wait to see if this is actually going to backfire. I mean, I can't wait. I just can't wait. But I'm not a big fan of him as a head coach for a few reasons. He had great players at Clemson. He built some of the best defenses. And a low-key story, Michael B., is a lot of what he did defensively worked versus us. They just could not get out the field on 3rd and long. So, previous so this kind of goes along with the Joe Burrow film study and something we're going to be doing with Jaden. That was our best 3rd and long game of the season. Joe was, it's transcendent stuff, what he did to Clemson. We could not protect some of the things that they were doing, and Joe was still able to find a way because, well, he's Joe motherfucking Burrow. He finds a way. But yeah, I think a lot of what Clemson did with the Venables is a lot of sign stealing, a lot of sign stealing. But I mean, he knows defensive scheme, and the issue last year, Michael B, is their offense was fine. Dylan Gabriel was a good quarterback, and they get him back, and Jeff Lebby, who came over from Ole Miss, was pretty good. It was pretty good. So it's very, very interesting. Let's go to Richard. He said, "Hey Carter, where did your comment about pickup trucks today on Facebook come from? You're just wondering. I appreciate the super chat. This is the second time this week, and I don't mind it, but this was the second time this week that I had something I brought up on Facebook get brought up on here. Okay, so on Facebook, like I'll post like just random observations. And last week on Blake's show, he brought up, my crawfish thing. And it was nothing about Dustin. It was, I won't bring up that topic again, but I will bring up this. I'm so fascinated by pickup trucks. So I don't own a vehicle. I don't. I don't know when I'll get another vehicle. I know at some point I'll need another vehicle. But, when you work from home, if I get another job or whatever, at that point, that's the main point of a car, right? Is to get to and from work. That is the number one reason, or to drop kids off at school or whatever. But there are services for that. The main reason you have a car is for work. It makes you money, right? But we're able to share a car. However, when I drive around, it is amazing how many people have pickup trucks, like these large pickup trucks. But I look in the truck beds, they never haul anything. There's never anything in the back of a pickup truck. So when you're driving tomorrow to work, all right, I want you to do this because, I'm in the South, a lot of you are in the South. I want you to look around at all the pickup trucks, okay, and tell me how many of them are actually hauling something that needs the trunk space or the cabin space. All right, type Y for yes, type in for no. You own a truck. Type Y for yes, type in for no. But it's just an observation. It's not anything other than that. I'm always just fascinated by that because they're expensive. Trucks are very expensive. Mike's a truck driver. Fatty, what's up, man? Just exactly. They want a truck because it's what everybody drives, right? Like, because I have a lot of friends that work in the automobile industry. All right, I have a lot, and they tell me this. They're like, "Yeah, this person bought a truck," and I was like, "Oh, well, what do they do?" And you just get like some of the professions that don't need a truck at all. Like one guy got a truck, and my buddy who sold it to him said, "Oh, he prints business cards." I'm like, "What? What do you need to haul if your main source of business is printing?" Right? I guess potentially a printer, but once those get set, printers never get relocated. Now, if you run like a lawn care service, right? You got to get the leaf blower, you got to get the lawnmower, you got to get, the bags and whatever else you need, the weed eater, whatever. Oh man, I look cool and have swag in my pickup truck. Doug, my guy, and I knew it. When you need it, you have it. You're the guy calling needing a mattress or furniture moved for you. and they ride like cars these days. But here's my thing, Doug, and that's great. But wouldn't you want that to be the opposite? Because, Doug, you're a nice guy. You're a very generous guy. So I knew if I was stuck, I knew I could call you and would be like, Doug, before we go get cheesesteaks, that's a deep inside joke. Can you get my four-wheeler unstuck out of the mud? But they do ride smooth now. And they all got the Apple CarPlay and all that stuff. It's just, when you're getting 14 a gallon, 14 miles per gallon, I use mine to haul my hay, my boat, my mowers. I don't use it like that every day, but it's there when I need it. Yes, Fetty. I'm telling you, there's so many people that get trucks and they don't need them. I'm like, man, wouldn't like a RAV4 or something like that be better? That's all. Now, Pierce, it's unlimited. Official visits are unlimited. So let her rip. If I was a kid, I would be going to officials every weekend. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and don't have it. The way this came out, I'm in a 4x4 60 days a year, pull tractor boat. Yeah, I guess you would need a truck for a boat. But to haul kids, yeah, it's true. But aren't these like suburban soccer mom SUVs? They all have 4 rows. Gotta haul stuff. Gotta haul. But I'm telling you, tomorrow, a lot of you, especially in the Patreon, in the Discord tomorrow, when you drive to work, now keep your eyes on the road, but honestly, count the amount of pickup trucks that are driving around and count how many are actually hauling stuff you need the truck for, right? Like, the trunks on these soccer mom SUVs or even just like a RAV4, you could store a lot of stuff in there. You can store a lot of stuff in there. And you, instead of getting 13 a gallon, you can get 23, 24, 25 a gallon. But Richard, it wasn't anything deep. Thank you, James. James, whichever topic you want to talk about, go straight to it. Let's keep it going. how does this? Okay. Who is the best running back in LSU history? Hmm. Well, he had 28 MPGs. Yeah, gotta do the silly questions every now and then. All right. Who's the best running back in LSU history? Very good question. Okay. Now, old schoolers like Skipper would say someone like Billy Cannon, right? Because, when some of you were younger, you were able to actually watch him. And Billy Cannon won our first Heisman, and he was obviously a great player, and the Ole Miss game and all of that, and he's definitely in that conversation. And then also old schoolers would bring up Cecil Collins, right? Like if Cecil, if everything that happened didn't happen, there you go, right on cue. All right. Now, James, I do know you are new, but PHL does have a very strong relationship with Charles Alexander. He has been on the channel. I still talk to Charles every now and then. We probably need to get him on again soon. But yeah, Charles Alexander is obviously a friend of PHL, and I do need to text and check in on him. And to the point now that I follow a lot of his kids on social media. So James, that does mean a lot that you say Charles Alexander. We're not like super close, but we're friends, and that's obviously cool. From yesteryear, the original LSU Bengals icon. And also, obviously, Jay Hill is a friend of the channel. I spoke to Jay Hill last week. Now, Kev Falk, and James, if you go, when you shoot me an email, I will send you the Charles Alexander interview. It's really good. It's one of my favorites. His recruiting stories, all that stuff. I think as far as like the goats, you could make a very strong case that the most important running back is Kev, right? And that would be a very good, argument. Out of Karen Crow, the first big LSU recruit of the modern era. He made it cool to go to LSU again, and so on and so on and so on. But Kev is definitely in that conversation. And I think, if you were really factoring in, just everybody, Kev would probably have to be in the top 5. I think so. Right. But of all time, I'm still going to lean. I'm still going to lean Fournette. I still am. Darius Guice has a really strong case, a very strong case, especially if you take out morality. But it's a tough one because, especially at LSU, when you don't era adjust, there's people that'll tell you, hey, the correct answer is actually Dalton Hilliard. So yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot, but I tend to focus more on modern era LSU, and no matter how you slice it, I just think it always comes back to Leonard Fournette. Now, my retort to that, James, would be this, okay? 2 things could be true at once. The weirdest thing about the Leonard Fournette hype train is, as great as he was, and he, to me, is the best running back of the modern era LSU, the Saban plus era of LSU, the 20 plus years that it's been. It's crazy to say this, and this could be chopped, out of context or whatever. But Leonard Fournette, like, everybody handed him the Heisman before he ever played it down. He is there's not been a running back high school prospect as hyped as him in a long time. And there might not ever be one as hyped as him now with, how people view the running back position. It is so much more quarterback receiver based. And there is such a devalue on the running back position on a lot of different levels of football. So Leonard Fournette gets to LSU and, he rushes for 1,000 his first year. I think it was 1,034. And then the next year was the year he got robbed of New York as a New York Heisman finalist. And then his final year was really good. He got banged up at the end of that one. So the weirdest thing about the Leonard Fournette era is we never won 10 games. Did not have a single 10-win season. Now, that is not his fault. It is not his fault at all. In fact, it's the opposite. He did everything he could. The Les Miles offense had become the most rancid it had been. And part of why the Leonard Fournette era is a little bit of a disappointment, just a little bit, okay, is that part of why those teams could never reach its potential is because of him. Because what Leonard Fournette did was it reinforced a flawed concept in Les Miles' mind that you can play the game of football with simple smash mouth, run right, run left, power pitch A gap right, power pitch A gap left. And you can't win versus a great team's doing that. In the old days, you can, right? If you out executed, if you out blocked, you can do all that. But Leonard Fournette actually dug Les Miles' heels deeper into the ground. And that's partially what hamstrung that team because, those teams would regress as teams begin to figure out what we were doing. Alexander ran against defense designed to stop him, and no one could. McFadden was a better college back than Fournette. Agreed. Yeah. I mean, there's no SEC back better than Darren McFadden post 2000 to now, right? I know there have been two running backs in the SEC that have won the Heisman, but nothing is more impressive than winning, being the runner-up in the Heisman Trophy in back-to-back seasons at a program like Arkansas. And he was really good as a true freshman as well. Remember, we almost lost that first-year game 19-17, blew a 19-3 lead that first year of his career in Tiger Stadium. Yeah, McFadden is an all-timer, right? Leonard Fournette is too. But, I think as far as the best SEC back of the modern era, I think it's either one of those two. But there's a lot. I mean, Sean Alexander. I mean, there's a lot of different ones you could point to. Derrick Henry, who actually won the Heisman. So, yeah. Come on, Pierce. True. That is true. But the greatest Clyde was, and it all goes back to Joey B. It all does. And we don't beat Bama if Clyde doesn't exist. And, the more I think about it, the more I think Clyde is underrated in this sense. The drop off from him to the next running back on our roster was the biggest non-Burrow drop-off from first string to the next string that we had on the team. Like TDP just wasn't the same back as he was later in his career. And his vision just wasn't ready, that first year. And then obviously Leonard Fournette, his brother, Leonard Fournette's little brother, quit the team. So, and John wasn't ready just yet for that. And Chris Curry was okay. But Clyde was just him, man. You could just see it, in the conversation we had with Burrow. Burrow loves Clyde. I mean, he loves him. And Clyde was just so good. Like there was nothing about running back play at the collegiate level that Clyde Edwards was not good at. And he was just so freaking good, man. He really, really, really was. And he deserves to be. It was just 1 year, but then again, his Georgia game in 2018 was really good too. Clyde. So yeah, how much do you weigh Clyde's season that 1 year when you start talking about him and the GOATs? I mean, it's up there. I mean, the Bama game was so freaking good. Like, how many single game running back performances were more impactful than that one? Good luck finding one. I mean, there's just not many. There's really just not that many. It really was that good of a game. Words of Jim Brown as a running back. Yeah, what a beast. What a freaking beast. Oh, man, I went after it with the 8-game, 9-game stuff. Now that I mentioned it, let's take a look at the poll question. 9-game conference schedule dominated the poll. Very interesting. LF7 in that 2019 offense would have set more records. I don't know. I don't know. Like, Clyde was just such a good fit with what they were doing, after the Texas game, as Joe pointed out, his pass protection became so good. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I really, really don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's so many what ifs with that. Like, I don't know. Like, it's strange because, like, okay. So we're doing it. It is later. We're doing a study on 3rd and long conversions, and one of the biggest plays of the season for LSU was a 3rd and 10 that LSU completed when Clyde made a guy miss and fell forward. It was a very difficult play. Bama called the perfect blitz. They had an unblocked A-gap pressure, and Joe threw very hot to Clyde, and that was such a chemistry play. Like, not every quarterback and running back. I mean, it was such a rare thing that a quarterback has to throw that hot, and it's a shoestring catch, and you make Trevon Diggs miss, and you fall forward for the first. Obviously Fournette was really good with Brady. I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't change anything though for that roster. And yeah, the LSU offense was a lot of hand the football out of shotgun, right? And Clyde's game was a little bit more bounce here, bounce there, and Fournette is a little bit more of a downhill, one-cut kind of runner. I mean, I think what makes this really difficult is like they're not the same players at all. Like their strengths are totally different. Their weaknesses are totally different. So I think it's tough to say. I think they would have complemented each other. I think they would have liked to have had Fournette, but it didn't matter. No, Geis is great. He was a great running back. Like there were some runs he made that makes you go, God, is there any other running back that you've ever seen do these types of runs? His running style is by far the most unique. Like at LSU, I mean, it was springy, right? He had a lot of bounce. He didn't just run angry. He ran with a lot of wiggle. So there you go. Yeah, and as Mike pointed out, from the Burrow film study, after the Texas game, his pass protection was so good. But on 3rd and 17, when we really needed it, Clyde had the big block, and that's what counts. When we really needed it, they forced Clyde to make the biggest block of the season, and he made it. That was one of the biggest blocks ever in the history of LSU football. It's up there with Hester versus Auburn to get the ball from Flynn to Bird. So there you go. Now, in the next few minutes, I'll answer as many questions as we possibly can. But if you super chat, we'll keep it moving. I think our top super chatter tonight has been James. Congrats, man. Tone it down. Appreciate it. Keep them coming. I don't mind. I'll like I always say, I'll keep going. Probably just gonna watch a little bit of poker. And by the way, after the live stream, I've been putting up chapters on the post YouTube. So after this is over, I go in and I type in like the timestamp of where we are, so it's easier to jump around. That was a big one. That was an absolutely big one. And what's interesting, Michael B., and this is why, you hear me say this, you've got to put teams away. When you play the style of football that LSU played at that time, and we kind of did this last year, we would play down to opponents. Florida had like one deep touchdown and a few other rinky-dink plays, and we should have blown them out. They didn't even play that well. And it took Darius Geis running into the wrong hole. He probably scored if he runs in the right direction to win the game, but it's not how it happened. It's not how it happened. And we're getting into the Joe Brady, Steve Ensminger discussion. It's time to wrap it up. My thing is, it was Ensminger who called the plays, but it was Brady who brought in a lot of the passing concepts. Well, that's okay. That's okay. Both deserve a lot of credit. And I'll also say this. Ensminger does not like that discussion, right? Because if there's anyone that does not deserve or does not like credit, is Ensminger. He was very anti-look at me, just go win games. And that's what made him great. That's what made him great. He didn't really have an ego. And that goes a long way. Okay. Now, here's what we're going to do. James, once again, shoot me an email, powerhourlsu@gmail.com. Okay. Let's see. There's something I wanted to do at the end of this live stream, but we went a little bit longer. I'm trying to remember. Sorry for you, man. It was brutal. Guys running into the wrong gap. Ugh. 2 p.m. Friday. Don't forget Thursday night, Blake will be on. So there you go. Oh, this is it. Actually, here's what we're gonna do. I don't think he's watching. James, by the way, thank you so much. We're giving this out. This is our biggest burrow. I think we've given out. I think I've given out a bigger one than this one. I was supposed to get this out tonight, and the person I was going to give it to, who I know could really use this card, I don't think he is still tuning in. So I'll announce the winner on Thursday. I'm going to ask him if he already has a copy of the card. We'll get this out to somebody else. All right. There you go. It is Power Hour LSU. Bam! And tonight, we're doing ribs, baby. Papa's ribs. Let's go. Ha, ha, ha.